Okay, so this is a recipe for a great breakfast that's going to give you lots of energy all day, and it's 100% naturally gluten-free. You want to start by heating olive oil in 2 different pans. This is just going to make cooking breakfast a lot faster if you do 2 things at once. In the one pan, we're going to saute some mushrooms. I used pre-cut mushrooms. You can use whichever type you prefer. These ones are baby white mushrooms. And you're going to stir them around so that the olive oil coats all the sides of them and kind of let them sit for a little bit. I like to just use a little olive oil and then spray the top of them with a cooking spray. This technique uses a little less olive oil and helps to brown the mushrooms evenly on all sides. Next, you want to season these mushrooms. I really like this McCormick seasoning. This one's a Chipotle flavor, and go ahead and sprinkle that all over your mushrooms. This is going to give them a really nice kick and really bring a lot of flavor to this breakfast. Okay, so set those mushrooms to the side and let them keep browning. They take a little bit to cook, but we're gonna start the kale. So in the other pan that's nice and hot now, we're gonna add about 2 teaspoons of minced garlic. I love using pre-cut garlic just because cutting garlic is kind of a pain in the butt. So this is a great tip to help you cut your cooking time in half. So spread the garlic around in the pan, and we're gonna let that cook in there for just about a minute. Then we're gonna add our kale. We wanna put in at least 1 big handful, because when kale cooks down, it cooks really small. So it's gonna seem like a lot, but it's not gonna be that much when we're done. And use the same technique we used with the mushrooms, where you go ahead and spray the top of it too, because it's going to allow for it to cook really evenly, and then it's not as hard to mix it all up to try to coat it with the olive oil on the bottom of the pan, since we have so much in our tiny pan. Okay, so we're going to let the kale sit for the most part, just so that it can brown up and crisp up on every side, but you can stir it or saute it occasionally. Now our mushrooms are done, so we're going to give them one last stir, and then we're going to set them off to the side for later. And in this same pan, we're going to go ahead and spray it again and now cook our eggs. Okay, now we're going to cook our eggs over medium. This is going to give you a really great runny yolk. So if you don't like runny yolks, go ahead and scramble your eggs, but if you want that really delicious golden yolk, this is a great way to do it. First, you crack each egg into the pan that's already hot, and you can see that it's already cooking a lot of the white. And then season your eggs while they're in the pan. I just like to use salt and pepper because I think the egg brings a lot of great flavor on its own. So while my eggs are cooking, I went to check on my kale, and it looks great. So we're gonna go ahead and plate that while we finish up the eggs. So we have our kale and our mushroom done, and now we're just waiting on these eggs. As you can see, they're not sticking to the bottom anymore, and the whites are really done. So if you're brave, go ahead and flip it. If not, you can chop them up and then flip them individually with a spatula. But I find the best way to make a really perfectly over medium yolk is to flip it and turn off the heat right away. With an electric stove, it's a little tricky because it stays a lot hotter longer than a gas stove. But with a gas stove, turning off the heat and finishing up whatever you want to eat it with is going to cook it just perfectly so that they're still nice and runny. Okay, our eggs are done, our kale is done, and our mushrooms are done. So to plate it, just top your kale with these eggs and then put the mushrooms right on top of the eggs, and you're good to go. You can eat this by itself, or you can eat it with beans like I always like to do. Either way, it's a great, tasty, naturally gluten-free breakfast that's going to give you energy all day long. Enjoy!